Okay. Wave your hand. Wave. Hey, big round of applause for Faisal. He's going to be moderating the panel. Okay, hold on, guys. High energy applause. Let's go, Faisal. Woo! So you'll be introducing your co-panelists, sir? Yeah. Would you like a microphone? Probably. Yeah. Do you need a clicker? No, probably not. No. Okay, all yours. The chair is yours, sir.
No, I haven't seen that. Hi, everyone. So the panel for, I think it's the last panel of today, Key Trends and Challenges in 2022. Let me introduce the panelists. Feras Sadek, Managing Partner of Ghaf Capital. Oh, there you go. Followed by Ali Madhavji, Managing Partner, Blockchain Founders Fund. Thank you. Okay, I got more applause. They're the guys with the information, so. Next is Dimitrios kavvathas, Chief Strategy Officer of the Amber Group. And we have Valeriya, Minaeva, Partnership and Comms from the 1inch Network. Is Danilo joining us? There he is. And we have Danilo, Carlucci, co-founder and chief investment officer of Morningstar Ventures. I could stand and do this. We need another.
Can we get one more seat?
We'll wait for one more.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so this is a little bit more comfortable. I can see all of you. So to start, as we kickstart 2022, how would this year be different in the digital assets universe? What should we expect in terms of investments, regulations, and adoptions? You know, I'll pick any one of you. Let's start with you, Valeriya.
Maybe I can start. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you to all survivors on the last panel. I'm Valeriya. I'm doing strategic partnerships for 1inch Exchange. For those not familiar, 1inch is a hackathon project that became a unicorn success, and we actually do have a unicorn logo as well. To your question, in terms of trends, actually, one is pretty clear from this panel. I'm currently sitting with 4 venture capital firms right now. And so recently there was a lot of funding in the space, and every second person I met was a VC or some sort of fund. And that leads me to having to say that we do not have enough solid projects to invest on the market right now. So that's the challenge of not only bringing the next billion users in the space, but also the next million of developers to support the projects and the ecosystem that we're currently developing. And a lot of projects have great initiatives right now. At 1inch as well, we run and sponsor lots of hackathons and have our own grant program. So we invite all of the builders out there to incentivize development. So we have, because we have the funding from the good guys on my right, and yes, passing my word to somebody.
So we're pitching as well. Dimitrios, I'll pass that on to you. Like the trends, because we've seen, you know, the digital assets or, you know, Web 3.0 go into overdrive over the past 6 months. What trends have you noticed in 2021 coming into 2022, and what have you seen change?
Yeah, I would say, and first of all, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for the invite. We see an increasing trend towards the regulators forming views about how the asset class should look like, and mostly trying to accommodate existing financial instrument regulation into the digital asset universe. We've seen various initiatives, various actions of global regulators towards creating order that would allow both investors and participants to partake of the ecosystem in a way that is secure, legal, and actionable. So just the last 2 weeks, we've seen Russia, Ukraine. So Ukraine passed a law, Russia legalized cryptocurrency. In the US, we saw the settlement of the Securities and Exchange Commission with BlockFi. So, and obviously being here, regulators, as we saw this morning, are very constructive about the asset class and the technology. We want to ride that wave and anticipate this direction and work closely with authorities globally to ensure that we are compliant, legal, regulated, so we can allow our users to accommodate their needs in a way that is fully compliant going forward. So.
Okay. Ali, you've been busy in the past month and a half. So what have you seen change in the investments? Like what is different from last year?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, we're seeing a lot of things change over time, right? So we've been investing pretty heavily in the space for a number of years. We've been, some of the first investors in play to earn gaming around the world, about 3 years ago, et cetera. And right now, I think one of the interesting things is there's so many companies launching. We're reviewing over 500 deals a month right now. We've done 20 deals in the last 10 weeks or so. But one of the things that we're seeing is a lot of areas are actually quite saturated, right? Like you've got a lot of, for example, games launching without actually that much substance, just trying to sort of go down that sort of money grab route, et cetera. And so it's actually important to be able to cut through, which areas are saturated or which areas do you think actually, something solving a very key problem in the space. So like, then that's gaming as an example. Everyone's talking about metaverse right now. You're seeing it from all the major Fortune 500s. You're seeing it from, at this conference, et cetera. But you've also got other interesting areas, right? So can you find unique angles where there's interesting companies? So an example of that would be, collateralizing NFTs, right? Like things like this to unlock capital could be quite interesting. You're seeing, so some of these things are starting. Our utility for NFTs is another one. So machine learning based training for NFTs, you're looking at, other ways to actually create utility to a lot of these static NFTs, whether that's to other games or other aspects or sports. So I think a lot of these things are quite interesting when it cuts through a lot of the noise and sort of goes in a little bit of a different direction from the pack.
So you're, with the problems that are coming in the space, you've invested in a lot more. So has the due diligence increased? Are you looking for more things with companies now than you were before?
So I mean, it definitely has gotten more rigorous. I mean, we always continue to improve our processes. I mean, right now, we probably look through about 90 different things when we're analyzing a company. Now, you can't always answer all of those 90 things, but we do get a lot deeper than a lot of players in the space, and that's usually a question that we get because we are just go a lot deeper. But I think it's important. Like, there's a lot of froth in the market, and this just can't survive. Like for us, we're looking at this as who are going to be the players that are around in 10 years or 5 years, and that's a very different result when you ask that question than what you're seeing right now, right? And we've gone through the last bear market. We doubled down even in the last bear market, and we're first investors behind a bunch of unicorns over that period, and so we know have a strong idea of what it takes to go on that journey.
Feras, I'll move that question again to you as well. Trends that you've noticed and problems VCs are facing as an investor in the current market with so many new projects coming in every day.
Yeah, definitely. So VCs, I definitely agree, are facing now a lot of challenges when it comes to number one, the number of projects that are coming up into the market. There's a lot of people who are approaching us with a lot of different ideas, with a lot of different concepts, but due diligence process for us now just has to be increased. So we have to do a lot more due diligence process. We have to do a lot more research. Who is the team? What's their background? So challenges like this when it comes to timing is definitely something that we are facing. Another, for example, set of challenges is after we do agree on onboarding a project, it's all the work and effort that we have to bring in and to add value to these projects. It takes a lot of time. Some of these projects sometimes demand these things from you, and some of them really appreciate it. So definitely the time and the effort that we put into helping these projects and supporting them grow as growth accelerators does take a toll on VCs, and you at some point feel like you're actually in the team, so you have to hire a full team to support one certain project. I think that is a challenge that we face. Also, some other challenges that I think in general we face is that the threats that some VCs sometimes get from different projects or different startups when it comes to their expectations. And if you do not, for example, deliver a certain expectation, the outcome sometimes is not very fair, in my opinion. But regardless, I really was like very interested with what Ali just said, that he has a 90-point due diligence process, which I think is remarkable. We have a similar due diligence process, but we should, I believe, take some of your points for sure. Some of the trends I believe that are happening in 2022, not only when it comes to investing, but also in the blockchain spaces, how to turn the blockchain in general more green, more eco-friendly, more friendly to the environment. Right now, when it's at proof of work concept, it's draining the environment. It's using a lot of the resources that the earth has to offer. When something that will allow it to shift from that is proof of stake and different methods to support the green environment in general.
I want to come back to you, Dimitrios, after I've finished with Danilo. Again, as an investor, trends and challenges that we've seen, there is a lot of support that you give your projects as well, which is like a whole 360. So can you talk about that as well? Because we've just looked at a slightly negative angle, the positive as well.
Yes, for sure. Right? For sure. So we do not consider ourselves ever investing in projects. Actually, we use the term as we are as their extended version of the team. Mm-hmm. We are also strategic partners to these projects. We actually want the projects to believe that we are part of their team and their bridge to the Middle East. So that's our key focus, and that's our USP while selling. So how do we support projects? We support them with almost whatever it needs. So when it comes to, for example, coding, so we have experts who understand code, who read code, who can support them with code. When it comes to, for example, warm or hard intros, so whether our projects need intros to market makers, to exchanges, to different influencers and KOLs, to marketing agencies, to launch pads. We try to support each one of our projects, and of course, all other types of support. Also, if they need introductions, or they need support with hiring a team, or they want. So us actually at Ghaf Capital, our key focus is to support our projects, not only in the blockchain world, it's also to support them in the traditional world. And this is something very important to us. When it comes to traditional world, we have a very strong team, and a lot of my team are sitting over here, but we have a very strong team that support all our projects also in the traditional world. For example, if one of our greatest investments, 1inch, if 1inch, I know they're moving to Dubai, or they're having a team moving to Dubai. So they're in talks with us. How can we move? Where do we set up? How do we set up? How do we get these regulatory, like government approvals? What do we need to do? So this is our home. Dubai is our home. We're all born and raised over here. So we support them also with that. And of course, the whole spectrum of blockchain and traditional support, that's what we try to do.
Right. Danilo, if you can add to that, And
I have a few comments, just very briefly. I would say in general, in terms of the trends, I think the blockchain space has become more fun. If personally for me, the whole, DeFi world was interesting. It still, of course, is, but I feel like with the evolution that the art world and gaming has brought to blockchain, I feel like we are in a more creative and interesting space for me personally. So I really love the creative people that are joining the industry, besides, of course, the finance-related backers that are in the industry. So that's been exciting for me. I think as a trend and a topic that I'm personally very interested in is education. So I think learn to earn is going to be very big. And we have invested and are looking at a few projects in that industry. And I do believe that will bring more people to the industry, hopefully.
Okay. Dimitrios, coming back to you about sustainability that, for us, it just touched on.
Yeah. I want to present some of our initiatives because they're relevant, and I'm sorry to hijack the conversation to present our case, but we are working obviously on a carbon tokenization platform that will allow our users to offset their emissions, their implied emissions in anything they do on our platform. So we feel that it's a very simple, legitimate way to present the opportunity to our users to do well by doing good. And further, we obviously, our marketing revolves around the sustainability theme. Our platform is called Whalefin after all, and we just adopted a whale actually. I don't know if you actually are familiar whether you can do it, but we're talking about these big mammals, right? So apparently 1% increase in phytoplankton every year is equivalent of 2 billion trees being planted. So now that said, away from what we do, we feel that carbon and offsets is one of those asset classes that are actually fitting the blockchain very well. And there are quite a few decent projects that have come online the last few months. And this could be an area where, unlike the finance applications of the blockchain, where governments are not necessarily behind it or are not supporting it from a regulatory perspective, you could see it on the carbon front and everything related to environmental initiatives. You may see, and you will see, and you've seen already, governments actually actively supporting it, not just with words, but with action. So the growth of this industry could be much, much faster because it will have the momentum from the blockchain behind and also support from the governments, unlike the uncertainty that we have been familiar with how regulators have been dealing with us all these years. So we're very excited about sustainability because obviously climate change is a central issue of our times, and all of us need to play the right role around it, because crypto has been perhaps fairly at times tarnished with a non-environmentally friendly brush. So we want to do our part to correct that.
Okay. I'd like to move into, so we've gone over investments and you've just spoken about regulation, and move into adoption. Because I have a slightly different view, and we've spoken about this before, and if I can have any of your views on this. We're talking about mass adoption. You have the likes of Apple and Samsung looking at introducing wallets into the new phones that are coming in. You have Damak that announced today morning that they're building their own metaverse. And just from the Super Bowl that happened, you had 0 ads last year and you had 6 crypto ads this year. For Coinbase, their downloads increased by 279%. Now, are we in the mass adoption stage, or do we still have to get there?
Yeah, I think I'll jump in, right? I think it depends where. So I think in certain areas, like for example, like you mentioned the Coinbase example, so a lot of people are starting to come in, from that into trading crypto, but that's still touching the surface, I think, of really going deeper into, getting exposed in different ways. So different people get involved, for example, in gaming, and they might not even know that they're really being exposed to crypto entirely. And I think that's going to continue as well. And so we're seeing large adoption from that front. We're seeing it on the crypto front. And I think it really depends on sort of where you are in the world, or so for example, in the Philippines, anyone you go talk to pretty much is aware what's going on in this space, right? And the same in a number of other countries. And so I think that's an important aspect to distinguish, right? I'll give you a quick couple data points as well in terms of what we're seeing right now, because a lot of people have been concerned, I guess, over the jitters in the market over the last 2 months. But what we've seen from an internal portfolio, and I don't think this has been shared elsewhere, so this is for your ears only, but we've actually seen it as the strongest month in company history for a number of our companies. So I'll give you some quick examples. Lunar Crush, one of our portfolio companies, they're one of the top tools in the industry for discovering altcoins. So we analyze over 4 million social media messages a day with natural language processing, and we did 2 billion page views in January, right? So that was their best month ever, but that was while crypto was also in a negative spiral. And I think that's where it starts to decouple from strictly being a lot of speculators, which is a lot more of what we saw, say, in the previous bull run in 2017, where now, regardless of even how crypto is performing, more and more people are using the tools, and that's a really positive sign, right? To put that into perspective, that's in the top 1,900 websites in the world, so it's bigger than MSNBC or Toyota's Traffic, et cetera. We saw the same thing on Splinterlands, right? So one of our play-to-earn games, generally considered one of the top 2 play-to-earn games in the world, alongside Axie. We just crossed 1 billion games played a couple of weeks ago. And we did 60% of the revenue that we've done in the last 3.5 years in January alone, right? Wow. So this is and it was by far the best month in company history, right? So we're seeing substantial traction beyond and regardless of the market conditions. I think that's really important to note right now, what we're seeing.
Okay. Do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I would like to add, in my personal opinion, we are already in mass adoption. I'm in the space for nearly 5 years, and back in 2016, barely anyone has heard of the crypto. And today, pretty much everyone knows about at least Bitcoin and NFTs, of course. But I also feel there is still a lot of liquidity sitting on the sidelines, both from institutional perspective, but also retail. And to fix that, we either need another bull market or to increase product use cases. Also, a lot of the bigger companies like Crypto.com and Coinbase, as you mentioned before, are doing a great job for everyone of us by participating in these like high-end sponsorships and working with Super Bowl, Formula One, NBA leagues, etc. This seems like pretty broad and might not pay the return on investment, but for everyone in the industry, it really helps the recognition, like to bring awareness. And at 1inch as well, we aim to lower this entrance barrier for newcomer, because DeFi initially is extremely expensive. If you use it on Ethereum, the gas fees have been huge. So we have explored launching on alternative chains, and we currently support 7 other chains, including some layer 2 solution. That's also one of the next trends, as we're speaking about trends for this year. I believe the scaling solutions will continue to evolve and become better and better, and that's amazing for everyone in this industry. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else on that subject of mass adoption?
Yeah, sure. When I think of mass adoption, I look at it at 2 ways. Is it mass adoption when it comes to the general population of the world, or is it mass adoption when it comes to the corporates of the world? Mm-hmm. A question that would come into my mind immediately when I ask myself these 2 questions is, how many of the S&P 500 are into the blockchain world or investing in Bitcoin or whatever it is, and what any other crypto? So I think right now we are in a stage where everyone's being educated about the crypto world and the blockchain world, and everyone is putting their feet in the water. They're testing it out. But I think when the real mass adoption happens is that when the big corporates the top S&P 500, when we see 50% of the S&P 500 or more, or a huge spike in growth of the S&P 500 companies going into the blockchain world, that's when we see the real mass adoption. That's when we really see things pick up.
Okay, Danilo?
I think we can move to the next question, and I can take that one.
Okay, so since the majority of the panel is VCs, what's changed from last year to this year? Like, what are you looking for now in a project coming to you? Because, for example, the metaverse has come into, the forefront. NFT projects have come up into the forefront. So I'd like to get all of your views on what are you looking for in the projects, those kind of trends as well.
Yeah, so I think every VC has to kind of try to differentiate themselves and try to find their niche, be it vertical based or be it maybe even technology based. So in our case, we're very much focused on Elrond, the layer 1 blockchain smart contracting solution. So we back and support and educate a lot of projects who want to build on the Elrond blockchain solution. In fact, we've just actually backed a first project out of Dubai called Ethereum in the data space that is building on Elrond. And so in our personal case, it's very much about being that group of people behind a specific, 5 billion market cap blockchain solution that really is there to support projects, built on that ecosystem. So, I think that's a great way to differentiate yourself and to add value. If we see what the Alameda research team has done with Solana, you could think other folks are trying to do the same at a smaller scale. So that's been our strategy so far, and we're excited about the Elrond ecosystem.
Nice.
And actually, so one small thing is, we are building actually a lot of stuff. People don't usually realize, but we actually have 5 products behind our fund that we run internally. And just yesterday, 2 days ago, we signed a 5-year contract to open a first digital art gallery in Dubai. So that's something we're doing on the side. And I hope one day we can do an event and bring people there.
Nice.
Congrats. Thanks. Can you repeat the question?
So essentially, as a fund, what are you looking for? Like, as an investor, what are you looking for now? Metaverse has come out into the forefront. The landscape's changed quite a lot. As Danilo said earlier as well, you've had a lot of, gaming become more prominent. Art has become much more prominent. So has that changed the way you're looking at projects, what you're looking for in the projects?
Okay. So maybe just to simplify it as much as possible, I would, of course, there's a whole lot that we look into. And maybe if I can summarize it into 5 to 6 points, I'll try with that. First thing is always for me, and I believe my team, we look into who's the founder and who's the team. Who's their backers, Founders are always a very, very, very strong element to any project, because even if the project fails, the founder will be able to lift it back up. And so the founder and the team is very important. What experience do they have? What projects have they done before? Who's their backers and supporters? So that's one point, founder and team. Second thing, I would always look into the community. And who are their backers? What part of the world are they from? Nowadays there's a lot of projects that don't have 100%, let's say, the correct community, because there's a lot of ways that you can build communities, right? But I think the most successful communities are the communities that grew organically and the communities that believe in the project itself. So I would definitely look into a community and who are their followers. Another point is I would always also try to look into who's on their cap table. So myself, for example, as let's just say as Ghaf Capital, if I'm on the table, I'm gonna give them 100%. I'm giving my project 100%, and I'm very sure of that. But the question comes is, will everyone else on the cap table give that 100%? We are fighters. Is everyone else going to be a fighter or not? So we always look into the cap table.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Of course, another point is where is what stage are they in? Is it just an idea and they're raising funds? A lot of projects nowadays have an idea, but they haven't spent a dime of their own, let's say, investment on the technology behind the idea. So what stage is it in? Is it proof of concept, is there proof of concept, or is it a beta version, alpha version? What version of its life is it in? So if it's more advanced, of course, it shows the determination that the team are, like, how eager they are to jump in and to do the product itself. Yeah, I think these are some key strong points that I would look into, of course, without everything else that comes on paper, but at the top of my head, I would summarize it into this.
Ali?
Yeah, I'll touch on this. I think Feras covered a lot of very interesting, like very specific points that I think are good. I'm going to answer the question a little bit a different way, more on, you know, the types of companies, right? And so, of course, that's always dynamic. Like, as you mentioned, metaverses come up. And so it's really about finding companies that are going against the grain, that are really solving a problem out there, and that there's a lot of value. And they're not just, say, a copycat of the last player, right? And so I'll give you some examples. I mean, if you talk about metaverse, I mean, do we need construction companies in the metaverse? Do we need, you know, mortgages in the metaverse? I mean, there's like all of these different things. I mean, if you talk about, like, we talked about NFT collateralization earlier, like, do we need stuff that's doing that? You know, say like multi-chain, like, you know, multi-chain derivatives, decentralized exchanges, or like, there's all sorts of different things that are still like fairly nascent, I would say, in the space, and really getting on the cutting edge of, you know, being able to pioneer and dominate a space that's then your niche is definitely something that we're always also being conscious of, right?
Dimitrios?
Yeah, I would add that I echoed those the points that were just raised. I would say that at this stage, we don't necessarily would look at a project. Obviously, we're not a VC, right? So we have different angles, strategy on how we invest. But as is, it's no more like about the crypto project itself, but it's a project like everything else. Crypto is now an enabling technology, the same way, I mean, I'm older than everyone probably, than 20 years ago the internet was. So there's no, like, this year we'll see more and more companies that are not really presenting the case of being crypto. Crypto is hidden somewhere in the background as a way to deliver the actual product. So we will be very product and solution focused rather than delivery mechanism focused, if I want to describe that. We would assume that crypto is somewhere in there and makes sense.
Okay. You know, at the end of this, because the topic is trends and challenges, we haven't spoken about challenges that would be coming up or trends that are coming up, you know, in 2022. So if I could just have you know, like, you can pick one of the few, like, investments, regulations, or adoptions, and give us your views on the trends and challenges that you see coming up in 2022. Starting with you, Larry.
Yeah, for us, of course, DeFi is all about freedom, being your own bank, and ability to participate from anywhere in the world. But we've seen a lot of institutional demands across the board, and one of the challenges for us will be actually onboarding these institutions and allowing them to tap into the benefits of DeFi in a compliant and regulated manner. That's why we recently closed a big round, Series B, to bring really strategic partners like Ghaf Capital and Amber Group to help us achieve this goal and build what we called regulated DeFi and permission pools, basically, where institutions can interact with each other in a compliant way. So that's the next big challenge for us on how can we make DeFi regulated.
Danilo, challenges, trends for the year?
Yeah, I think, as I said before, the trend, I really see everything related to education being very big. One of our portfolio companies, Morales, is a company that started out with crypto investors and now raised eyebrows of the traditional American VCs, and that's purely because they're enabling new developers to build on blockchain. So personally, I think really everything that is education and developer adoption is really gonna keep raising the eyebrows of the bigger American VCs, and hopefully that's good for everybody.
Okay.
And as for challenges, I'm not sure. I think everything's good.
Maybe I will mention a few challenges that I see. Number one is educating the people into what is crypto and how to access crypto. Communication, exactly. Another challenge is that we're seeing that the blockchain is a very fast-paced and it changes quite often, and there's a lot of improvements and developments on it. And when this happens, also there's a lot of malicious acts towards it, hackers. So that's a challenge. Just like recently, one of the biggest websites got attacked, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a challenge where a lot of the people were not aware on what they're clicking and how to act towards such a thing. So that is a key challenge that people will look into. Another challenge could be regulation, of course. So how fast to regulate everything?
I mean, one specifically is just, I'd say, the froth in the market, right? And so a lot of people need to be careful on just the quality and the things that they're investing in. I mean, we're seeing just tons of really bad companies these days. And there's some really great companies as well, right? But it's being able to distinguish and differentiate between that, to make sure that, you're somewhat well protected if the market corrects pretty heavily, and you're in companies that are going to go survive downturns and build real businesses and solve real problems in the space, and products that people love and use on a daily basis, right?
Dimitrios, maybe from a regulations angle, maybe from adoption angle, challenges you would see.
I would just say I'm worried about the market overall, how the world would take kindly if, obviously, we're like we're done a lot on the main coins, right? So if this goes on and there is more weakness and there are no place to hide, how will the interest of the public be sustained in another bear market? So we've seen it before. Let's see how this time the stakes are much higher. So we want to see how that plays out.
Adi, do we take questions from the audience? Does anyone have any questions? No.
I would like to mention one thing though.
Go on.
I want to thank my team. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Sheikh Al-Maalla, managing partner at Ghaf Capital. Shahab Al-Hashimi, also managing partner at Ghaf Capital. And I believe me sitting here, they deserve some credit too, because if it wouldn't be, I wouldn't be here without them.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank our lovely panelists, and thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess thanks for our panelists for the last panel of the day. This concludes a